know there's never a good time to run out of fresh. Luckily, our delivery and free pickup make it easy to grab what you need. So whether it's a few extra buns for the backyard barbecue or some miscellaneous munchies...
Let's try that, actually. We'll try it with the mic turned on. That'll be a little bit better.
Fresh for everyone.
And now you'll find more ways to save.
Been one of those days. Forget to turn the mic on.
You can use up to 5 times in one transaction.
Looks like we got a few folks here, which is great. Sorry, my voice is a little out of it, a little tired.
Sandwich you've ever had. Okay, now imagine it's a Starbucks breakfast sandwich. It's made with plant-based sausage, and it's unbelievable.
So, what we're gonna work on tonight?
It is.
I'm back to working on my game here. Took a little bit of a break for the game jam, and then took a week off after that. Spent a lot of time streaming, spent a lot of time on the computer. Felt like a break was good. So I got a few things that I'm interested in working on here. I got one thing I really want to work on, and then we're gonna maybe start adding some new features. So in the last couple weeks, I have been able to get the combat working again. Now it's all kind of janky. It's all kind of whatever. All kinds of balancing issues, all kinds of things like that need to happen, but that's totally fine. That's not a problem at all. That's pretty expected. And so what you can see here is we'll play here, give it just a minute. Oh, looks like we got a little error there. Yeah, we got an error there with our ship. All right, let's check that. Well, I think I know what's happening. So let's take a look at what's going on here. But anyways, the combat is more or less working. Figured out what was wrong with that, which again, of course, if anybody's been following along, was the problem in the problem when I've switched over to away from game objects. Been a problem that I've been working on for a long while. LOL Corporation, do I have a video playing in the background? I think I just have the music playing. I think it was just an ad. I should spring for a paid Spotify account so I can get rid of the ads. Probably be worth doing. So let's see here. The issue here is our min number is greater than our max. That seems reasonable. So where did that... That should be getting set. I know why that's happening. I know why that's happening. And that is happening down here. Because what I added in, I did this up here with the structure size too. So let's zoom out a little bit so we can see a few more lines here. So we've got this minimum number of, we got this number of structure. And one of the things I was finding was that sometimes just the number of structure is too large. And so the NPC ship would be huge and it wouldn't fit very well onto the screen. And so I added in this constant here where we're gonna effectively just limit the maximum size of our ships. And I decided to do the same thing with the weapons. Some of our ships were just stupidly overpowered. They were showing up with 15 lasers, and that just wasn't working. And I bet you that's what's happening here. So let's look and see when this minimum weapons is getting assigned. So let's go look at this here. So let's see, max weapons. No, when is min weapons getting assigned? Best Blood 17, you're making your own game in Unity for the first time. What are you making? What's the game? What kind of genre? What's your idea behind your game there? So this is totally where it's happening here. And what I'm doing right here is, my comment here is I'm ensuring that the max is bigger than the min. But I may need to do that less than that. Good evening, welcome. Thanks for joining. Bunch of new folks here. Haven't seen you guys on the stream before. Do appreciate it. So if you guys got questions, I know a lot of folks have been joining the channel with the news of Bolt going free. A lot of new people on the channel. If you got questions on Bolt, feel free to throw those in chat. Happy to answer those. If you got other questions on what I'm doing or what, you got a problem with your own game, happy to answer those questions. If there's no questions, I'm just going to keep working, but yeah, I'm just going to keep working and see where we're going here. Yeah, first time catching stream. I haven't done a whole lot of streams. I've been doing more of them this summer. A little bit more time on my hands with the streams, but got some more time on my hands. We'll see how that goes. School year gets started up here in a few more weeks. Yeah, if you got a question, toss it there into chat. Happy to answer those questions the best I can. We're all learning. We're all very much learning in different parts of our journey and do the best we can. So let's see here. So my problem is that my min was less than my max, which is a problem. And this should fix that. But because of the way that I did it here, so we could do something similar here with the min weapons. We could just kind of build this in like so. Actually, that can be private. Private int min weapons. And we'll just, oops. Okay. And then we'll get a getter and a setter here. So if we want to get this, return min weapons set. So what we're going to do here is ensure, we want to look and say if min weapons, or we want to say if value is greater than or equal to max weapons. We'll do the underscore max weapons. Then what we want to do is we want to say min weapons is equal to max weapons minus 1. Let's do this actually. Because I want to avoid the minimum weapons being 0 or negative. That will throw a serious wrench in my plans here. Let's see, what do you got? Primary focus right now is learning 3D modeling with the intent to end up creating game assets and moving forward with that career. Awesome. You're 36, starting a bit old. Nah, nonsense. I think that's almost the exact age I picked up Unity. Don't worry about being 36. I might have been, I bet you I was 36. I'm not just making that up. I bet you I was 36 when I picked it up. In my opinion, do you think it would be worth it to offer what I can to an ongoing project in an intern type program? As in offer what I can do completely for free and in return for guidance and help with the lead modeler and actual experience. I've been hacking at models in Blender for about 7 months now. And definitely no apologies there for a long question. That's a great question. I guess it just really all depends on what what you want to do. Glad I can give you a little hope there. Yeah. Right. Like I guess I'm a firm believer that you can reinvent yourself. You can totally reinvent yourself. Yeah, I don't know. Like my dad was kind of that role model for me, right? Like he was a teacher, and then he was a counselor, and then he was a businessman, and then I think in his late 60s, maybe early 70s, became a professional photographer and made a living for 5 or 10 years. I don't know. I mean, I think certainly if you have the opportunity to work with some skilled professionals, that could be pretty awesome. I mean, that's an experience I've never had. If that works in your, for paying your rent, if that works for your personal life, then yeah, I would say that could be pretty awesome. I would bet you could learn an awful lot in just a few weeks or a couple months working with a professional team. I'd be jealous, frankly, if you could do that. And especially, I think it's a much faster track than, say, trying to learn a bunch just on, YouTube videos or reading books or what have you. And if you really do want to turn it into a career, which is a totally viable thing to do, yeah, I think that's great. I think it's a great thing to do. Again, if it works, right? You got to be able to pay your rent and feed yourself. Where I live, I live in a tiny little town of 6,000. There's no opportunities like that. I'm not aware of any game studio in the Valley, and I'm sure there's some other hobbyists in the Valley, but I think it's awesome. Yeah, I think I don't know, like I've definitely thought about going back to school myself over the last several years, going back and getting a computer science degree. My degree's in physics, not in computer science. But yeah, the money thing kind of gets in the way. Yeah, the money thing gets in the way. And I'm not sure going back for like a game design degree. I think game art's a little different. I think certainly going back for game design degree could be a waste of money. All right, let's see here. Let's just put this in here and not be too clever. And max weapons greater than 0. So then what we're going to do is okay, so if we're going to do that, we're just going to do then max weapons. We're going to do max weapons, one like that. Else, if value is greater than or equal to max let's do this. Max weapons, and for some reason max weapons would be 0. I don't think max weapons is ever going to be 0. Do like that. We'll just do this. I think that will avoid that error. It's funny, I tested this, I don't know, not a bunch of times, but 3 or 4 times, and I never ran into that error. So I think it's a unlikely thing to be happening there. Let that compile and see how we're doing. Yeah, you're a physics major. Awesome. I loved physics. It was like the one subject that I enjoyed. It was like the one subject in high school that I loved, and then turned it into a couple different degrees. Actually, yeah, 2 physics degrees. I did love it. So All right, let's see if we should be able, hopefully that avoids that error there. Okay, so we've got our ship up and running.
City Market.
We can now, there's lots of little problems with this screen. If anybody's been following on the streams, right? Whoa, that was not supposed to happen. We got some weird lighting issues.
Buns for the backyard barbecue, or some miscellaneous munchies for movie night.
Oh, that happened.
Easy to get back
Oh, that's
to
interesting.
whatever you were doing. City Market, fresh for everyone.
And now you'll find more ways to save on your favorites when you download digital.
Oh, it's funny. There's something else must have changed when I set up this scene. I've got a tween going on that shakes the ships, and for some reason it sends it way off coordinate wise, and then after it gets hit the first time. So let's see what here we do. Ship shake, do ship tweens. Yeah, it's this do local move. I don't move, do the, it's this line right here. Do local move. I'm not sure why it's messing it up, but I took it out of the player ship there too as well. So I know it's an issue. It's a matter of polish. We'll come back and deal with that later. That's looking pretty good for the most part. Let's see here. Yeah, if you live in the middle of nowhere in Canada, yeah, that's tough. I mean, I would say, right, like if you live in the middle of nowhere, then just like spend your time practicing reading, get books, read videos, get as active as you can, and just practice. You know, and I think in terms of turning something into a career, you know, and maybe this is just like internet pipe dream, everybody's just like patting each other on the back, but I think companies are more interested in seeing what you've been able to create than say your degree. So start building up that portfolio of art, start building up that portfolio of games, you know, and see where you can go. Let's see a couple other questions in here. Best Blood 17. Any tips for your game? I'm not sure if that is a typo there. If you're asking for any tips for marketing your game or making your game, tell me a little bit about your game, Best Bud. What kind of game are you making? What's your experience? What's your goals? Hey, and I'm got no idea how to pronounce your username there. I'm more than happy to be one of those Bolt resources. There's not a ton of them out there. I'm pretty excited for the Bolt 2 alpha to go public so we can start making some videos on that. I've got a handful of those projects just sitting here on the computer ready to get turned into videos. So we'll see. Once that goes public, we'll be doing a little bit more work here. So here's the other thing I want to do here on the combat before I move on to a new function, a new mechanic. This UI element is supposed to appear. This is supposed to appear when we go into combat mode. And let's make sure. Oh no, that's the hover mode. That's not the right. That's not the one I want. That one is showing up. It's this one here. Okay. So it is this ship stats that's not working quite right. And what this is supposed to show you is quite clearly the ship stats. So okay, so here's the show mode. So we show during arena combat and begin combat. Great, so that should all be working. Let's go into combat mode and see what this is doing. And John B, welcome to another Saturday stream. Thanks for joining again. Much appreciated. Best Blood, my game is about saving my friends before the timer runs out. My game is called Bloody Player 17. Oh, I think a bird just hit my window. I mean, what's your genre? I mean, general advice for making a game is dream big, and then this is what I tell my students, like, dream big, and then put it all on paper, plan it all out, get it all going, and then cut 80% of it. Cut it down, keep it really simple. Keep it simpler than you think it needs to be. You're way better off for your first game to make something simple and complete and get it polished and feeling good, than create some big, wild, crazy game that's never going to get finished. I mean, that is my generic advice. Okay, why in the world is this not working? Okay, so we've you can see these red lines over here. This means like our thing is like turned inside out. I don't know why. Tech Dave 99, thanks for joining again. Tech Dave was a lifesaver during the latest game jam. Helped me debug and came up with all kinds of great ideas. But yeah, Best Blood, basically that is my advice. Like, make something simple. Make something simple or simpler than you want to make it, and then push yourself in 10 or 20% of your game, right? Like, if you plan out your game and 50% of it or 70% of it or 90% of it you don't know how to do, my advice would be that is not a well scoped game. If 20 or 30% of your game you're not sure how to do, but you kind of know how to do, that's probably pretty good. There's also a saying that in game design, your first 10 games are going to suck, so get them out of the way in a hurry. Make as many games as you can, as quick as you can, and learn. Join a game jam. I did a game jam a week or two ago. It was awesome. I learned a ton. It was the first 2D game I've ever made. Super fun. Let's see here. Go.kid. Your game is Rollerball? Let's see. Where is it? I got Rollerball. Here's Rollerball. This, my scene's screwed up a little bit here, but this is Rollerball with Bolt 2. This will be probably the first or the next Bolt or Bolt 2 video that'll come out on the channel. And this is pretty sweet, right? Like, you got the player, you got your graph down here, you've got your full C# generation over here on the right. It's gonna be pretty sweet. Probably be 2 videos, and I'll put it out. I haven't made the videos yet, but it'll come out as soon as Bolt 2 is publicly available. Maybe a bit before that, but that's what we're aiming for. Hey Langdon, thanks for joining. Looks like you finished well in the game jam. Yeah, I was pretty happy with get rid of this. I was pretty happy with where I finished in the game jam. You know, you always I finished better than I expected and worse than I hoped. How's that? I think I finished like overall like 300th out of 5,000, so I was pretty content with that. There were some pretty slick games. They were the games that were in the top 20 were, I think most of them were really polished and well done, and maybe not all of them. There were some I didn't think looked very fun, but there were some that were pretty darn polished. So I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, Go.kid, yeah. Rollerball's a great place to start. It's a great place to start. Learn how to get it done. Yeah, exactly. Learn the basics, push yourself a little bit. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is and I make this, and I'm making this right now with this project to some extent. People get so excited that they're going to create this giant game. They think they can, with no understanding of how hard it is. And then they get frustrated, they give up, the project breaks. And I've been having a lot of fun last couple of weeks making programming pattern videos, which programming patterns are great ways to prevent your program or your project from breaking. But I think a lot of people just experience that they work on a project and it just breaks. And they don't know what to do about it. So they start a new project and it's just too complicated. Yeah, start with a rollerball. Start with something really simple. Yeah, John B, isn't that C# preview pretty slick? I'm trying to figure out, I've been playing around with layouts in Bolt 2 here of how to get it all on the screen so I can record it, because I really want to keep that C# preview as part of future videos. You can see like right here, line 40, right? Like it's not quite, doesn't wrap super well, like it, you know, there's gonna be some of that kind of funkiness, but I think one of Laszlo was the original developer of Bolt. One of his goals was that Bolt 2 would be a bridge for people to learn C#. And I think it totally is. And the C# preview, I've actually found super helpful for debugging and understanding what Bolt's doing. But it's pretty slick. I think it's pretty great. Yeah, exactly. Do not get discouraged if the quality of your work isn't awesome, because it's not going to be. Right? If you could create awesome art or an amazing game on your first attempt, everybody would be doing it. It's really, really hard. Like if I ever get this game done, maybe I get it done. You know, if I could I sold 4,000 copies, 5,000 copies in my first game. If I could do that again with this one, or maybe double that, I would be super stoked. Selling 10,000 copies of this would be amazing. And that is, by most people's standards, is not a successful commercial game. There you go, Tech Dave. Spore with multiplayer. Yeah. Would be a pretty sweet game. Be a pretty sweet game. That would be you need a lot of people working on that game. Okay, so I don't know what is going on here. So basically it seems like this ship stats thing is just not doing its thing. So let's get into debug mode here and see if we're missing anything. All right, we got the right player ship stats. Okay. I'm not sure why it's arena ship stats. I think I just made it while I was making the arena, thinking I wouldn't need it in the other part of the game, but whatever. Not too worried about that right now. Right, it's showing, so we're moving the correct place. Let's open this up and see if we can do a little debug here and see what's going on. Because at some level, right, what's going on is the size is all wacky. Right, like it's shrunk down to almost nothing. and nothing's turned on. So, oh, you know, I know why it's doing that though. Because it's got content size fitter on it. So nothing in here is... But this thing is just all kinds of wacky.
Market, we know there's never a good time to run out of fresh. Luckily,
There we got
delivery
some
and free
stats.
pickup make it easy to grab what you need. So whether it's a few extra buns for the backyard barbecue or some miscellaneous munchies for movie night, we make it easy to get back to doing, well, whatever you were doing. City Market, fresh for everyone.
Well, I got my fuel countdown, but I don't have my sliders. So I'm not sure. So let's figure out what is going on with these sliders here. Let's just
Hey there,
not
nerdlords.
too much code, 200 lines of code.
Bruiser, a podcast where we go into the true stories behind our favorite properties that have defined fandom culture.
That's right, Holden. Each week we uncover the real history behind the things like Dragon Ball Z, Firefly,
And-
Futurama, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
Okay, I think they get it.
Full
So
Metal
we
Alchemist, Neo.
Okay, what? Okay, so we got an on enable here where we're doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Edutainment journey today. Tap the button to start listening now.
Sports are back, and you can find great ways to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. First off, FanDuel is
There you go. If you can sell one copy, you'd be over the moon, right?
If you already have a FanDuel Sportsbook account, then you're
You know, when I first got started with all this, a lot of people would post that it was just an accomplishment just to publish a game, and I 100% fully agree with that. Like, it doesn't matter how many you sell, your first game's gonna suck. Just going through the action of finishing a game, publishing a game to a store, and then dealing with your customers, that by itself is...
The A in Chick-fil-A is for all the little things we do.
That's an accomplishment, and you're gonna learn a ton in that. Okay. All right, so here we're updating our sliders. So this is definitely going to be a problem. And here I had problems with sliders earlier, but that's going to be a performance issue. But I'm not really sure what I'm not sure of is why the sliders themselves aren't showing up. So here's like this is like some cheesy pooling of object pooling of these sliders. Like I'm turning them off. If I can't get one, I instantiate a new one. So this is all happening with events, which kind of neat. That's the next video coming out. My next tutorial is all on events and the observer pattern. One of my favorites, as you can see here. But you know what's interesting is we're never calling update sliders. Let's look. We're only calling that, right? We're only calling that there and not on any of the events. Let's see where this is all getting called. Okay, so we call it there on enable. We call it with module added. Okay, great. So if we add a module, that's great. Ship energy change. Okay. And power tower. So we are calling all those update sliders. All right, so let's be lazy here. Let's do a debug log, updating sliders. So this is gonna be my one goal. I'm getting this combat piece. It just kind of looks nice. It feels good to have these in there. You can see they got a slider there. The colors are all messed up because I was reworking the way I handle colors, but I'd like to have this work again. It's helpful. It's helpful for debugging if nothing else. And then once I get to that, the thing that I want to do, you can see, nope, did we throw an error again? Yep, we threw an error. Yeah, there we did it again. Get number of weapons. Interesting. So that thing that I hacked together earlier didn't solve our. Interesting. Okay, so let's just do min number equals math minimum value of what do we want to do here? We want to say try that. It's interesting that that's, I mean, it's totally because of the change that I made. I need to think about how rethink about how I'm doing that. Obviously left a hole in there. Tech Dave 99, yeah, or somebody else was asking, yeah, when is Bolt 2 going to come out? I don't have any inside knowledge. I would tend to agree with Tech Dave that Bolt 2 is probably not coming out. It probably won't be out of alpha or beta this year. I think Unity is doing an awful lot to integrate it, fully integrate it into Unity. I did see some comment that I may have misread this one, so don't quote me too tightly on this one. There we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, so we're updating our sliders. We're doing it like crazy. I think they're going to integrate it so tightly with Unity that it's not actually going to be like a something that you add to your package or add to your project through the package manager. I think it's actually going to be in like the default Unity. And again, I could be wrong with that. I may have misread that. Or misinterpreted it, but I think it's going to be that tightly integrated. And I think that's going to just take a lot of effort, and I think they really want it to be really, really solid. Right now, I think there are still problems, not with the C# generation, but running that C# code. Some of the testers have been doing a little bit more work than I have, and I think there's some bugs still there. And so I think they want that pretty rock solid before it becomes kind of a default in Unity. But I think it'll be great if it's just built into Unity. It's probably some performance bump there. The performance hit of Bolt 2 when you're using C# generation, or when you're running off the C# is pretty minimal. It's definitely there, but shouldn't be a concern for any sort of small game. And I'm pretty excited because I think things like the state macros, FSMs basically, will be pretty neat to include. Okay, so that's working. So we're updating our slider. We're definitely hitting this. Our ship is not null. We've got our ship there. Oh, we're sticking them on the wrong. In the world? The hell is this thing? Oh. We're parenting them wrong. Okay, so somewhere in here it's getting parented incorrectly. So there is a parent field in here. Slider pool parent. Okay. That's that. Okay. So what I'm doing there is cheating a little bit. Basically, I'm making a new game object, and rather than turning these objects on and off, which turned out to be super expensive with TextMesh Pro, if you turn TextMesh Pro on and off, it gets pretty grumpy. So what I did instead is create this game object that's not a child of a canvas, and then take this UI element, make it a child of that non-canvas object, and then it won't be displayed. And I bet you what's happened is I'm not setting it back to the right parent. There's my toggle off. All right, let's find where the, whoa, geez. That is totally what's happening. Okay. So let's do this. Slider, transform, parent. No, we don't want parent, we want set parent equals this transform. And I'm doing it with the new one down here, but I'm not doing it with the recycled ones. Yeah. 50-50, this works. How do I move that chat? Move the chat over there. Eva Watson, how do you get third person to aim up and down with a gun in the player's hands? Oh, there's my sliders. Should we give them some color? In terms of you know, in terms of moving things up and down, I mean, that's it. I mean, I guess it depends. So let's see, if you're going third person, how do you move it, aim up and down? So I guess that depends on how you're aiming. So I guess that just totally depends on how you're trying to aim your gun. Yeah, you're just trying to make sure you got a gun. I mean, I would say that if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna try to aim a gun like that, you're gonna have to, yeah, you got to think about how you want the player to do that, right? Because in third person, it depends on how your camera is fixed. If your camera is like fixed to your player, so your player rotates and the camera goes around, that's totally different than if you have free control of your camera and your player. So yeah, I guess I'd have to know a little bit more about how you're trying to, how you want the user to experience that. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you're trying to get that to happen. Maybe we can get you. Maybe we can get you moving in the right direction. But give me a little bit more information. Let's see. Can you tell me how to make a good UI? No. You can see mine. It's not awesome. For me, I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by a good UI. good UI for me, like simple is good. And so for me, you can kind of see here, like things are kind of, they're not totally together. But I'm going pretty simple with the text. I'm going pretty simple with the backgrounds. A flat UI, I think, is the way to go. I don't think you get crazy fancy unless you're a particularly talented artist. Simple. In terms of organization, the one thing that comes to mind if I think about organization, name things well. And then I've heard, and I need to do a little more research on this, is there is some level of performance hit when you turn things on and off or update things. And I'm not sure exactly on the details because it hasn't been a problem for me. And so maybe that just means it's not a huge problem because I got a pretty significant UI here. When you update part of a canvas, there is a performance hit. And so there may be some reason to separate out your UI elements into different canvases so that if you're updating this one over here on this canvas, you're not having to deal with that canvas. But I don't think that's a huge concern. You can see here how mine is updated. Oh, we got a bunch of garbage here that got created from the scene, but I've just got one canvas here for now, and then I've kind of broken it up into important chunks. So like here's the HUD. So here's all the stuff that the player's gonna see. I've got a combat one over here. So this is stuff that's only gonna get shown during the combat. And for me, that system works pretty well. Likewise here, I've got like a shipbuilding, just a button actually. That for me works really well. Having those empty parents that are well named and kind of chunked out. I like how that works. Works for me. So I want to see here if this green, if this energy is going to show up. There we go. There we go. Oh, I think. Oh yeah, we're damaged. So there you can see the hit points are coming back. I can turn that on. We'll power up again. Okay. I think it might actually be back to working. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about doing, and I'm not going to do now because it's going to be too big of a redesign. You can see I'm using two cameras, one for the player, one for the NPC, if you will. And you've got this little overlap here. The spacing of the cameras is difficult. I haven't decided if I want to get smarter about that. I need to really think about what that looks like. But I'm super happy to have those sliders back and working again. And I can't remember all these colors. I think all these colors are, yes, these colors are actually scriptable objects. So those changes that I made in play mode will stick. I don't know if Michael99's here. He usually gives me crap about Odin, but here's a little bit of pretty Odin going on, my color manager. I like this system. These are all actually scriptable objects. Kind of set it up here so we can copy colors. And the names here are just a giant enum. You can see here. Probably could get a little smarter. I've done something since that would be a better way to do it than that. But then all my colors here are in one place, and then my game objects can come into my color manager, grab those colors, and then take that color out. So my colors are just stored in one place. I can change it in one place, and everything that's going to get energy is going to change if I change that. Let's see here. We got a few more questions. Fraternal House, thanks for coming back. Yep, we're back. Took last week off. Felt like after the game jam, I had been streaming a lot. Let's see, Eva Watson. I'm using Cinemachine from the package that Unity has. I'm using it for the third-person horror game. Yeah, John B might looks like he's kind of pointing in the right direction. So Eva, I guess if I was playing a third person game, like I don't like first person games just because I think I'm an old fart and they make me sick. I don't know, I get nauseous super quick. I would probably, and again, I don't play a lot of third person shooter games, so maybe somebody with some more expertise can tell you this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how those games tend to play. I mean, my feeling would be that I would use the mouse to aim. I would probably use, I mean, my first intuition would be, and it maybe this is horrible, right? Maybe it's just a horrible idea. If I'd probably use the mouse to aim. And so what I would do is I would create some sort of like targeting, like you can see here, this targeting cursor here that I have. I'd create something like this that would, whenever I'm firing or in that mode or however your game toggles into that, that would follow my mouse. That would like track my mouse position. And so that would give the player feedback as to where they're aiming. And then I would probably raycast from the camera. Excuse me. I'd raycast probably from the camera either to the mouse or to that cursor. And then that's how I would aim into the world. And so I would use that, and again, I apologize if you're not familiar with raycasting, you definitely should look into raycasting, but you're going to want to raycast from that camera through the mouse cursor or the targeting cursor that you're showing on the screen. That would be my first attempt. The other thing I would suggest too is go find, if you're making a third person shooter, go play one, see how they do it. Like what's the control scheme? How does the player control it? And especially a third person where you're potentially controlling the right, you're potentially controlling the player object, the camera, and aiming. How do you control all three of those things? If I was making a game like that, that'd probably be one of the first things I would do, would be to go out and play those games and study those games. But I would also look into raycasting from the camera to the mouse cursor, or to I'd start with the mouse cursor, go to the mouse cursor and use the mouse to aim. Fraternal House, how to come out in the game jam? Pretty good. I was pretty content. Show you here the results. As I was saying earlier, better than I had hoped, or better than I expected, worse than I'd hoped. Right? You always hope to do better, but there you go. I mean, I can live with that. Apparently people didn't think the game was very original. That's probably a fair criticism. But overall, 300 out of 5,000, I'm pretty happy with that. Y'all dream of being in the top 20, but I only got 18 rankings, and I have no idea what that doesn't seem like a whole lot of ratings, not rankings. So whatever. I'm pretty happy with that. Finishing with that, I think that puts me in the 6th percentile. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see, get an FTL type project. Yes, this is definitely an FTL type project. Here, I'll show you guys a little bit. Now that combat's kind of working, I'm gonna turn the NPCs off so it doesn't come and attack me. The AI is still really, really basic. So what this game was kind of inspired by Trade Wars, which is a game I played as a kid. And so you're in this procedural universe, of course, right? How could you have a indie game without some procedural generation? And then you've got this is what it is right now. This is the kind of your universe, and I have no idea where the player is right now. The player's in sector 0, which who knows where that is. It should be somewhere here in the middle. That's just kind of an average. So anyways, you've got this procedural universe that goes around, and you can see here, if you kind of scan through things, we've got different colored stars. So they're going to be different types of stars, where right now that's purely decorative. There's nothing about that. And there you go. So here you can see that we've got some default text there. The population of 123 million is just a placeholder there. So there's going to be ports in there. I should be able to. I think the greens, the no names, are planets. I'm not sure this is fully updated. So that's kind of the idea. So you've got these star systems that are connected kind of through wormholes, portals, whatever you want. And then we can go on a little journey. We can warp through them. You can see they're kind of populated. It's mostly placeholder art at this point. Kind of getting the job done. And some of this stuff broke too, of course. So what the idea here is, like, obviously, like, these are spinning so fast. Like, here's a moon. Like, you should be able to, I can like get into the moon and then it freaks out. And what's broken is you can't back out of that. The escape key backing out of that stops working. So Langdon. Yes, Langdon, I did suspect you of stealing things. Langdon's one of my students, lives nearby. I looked out my window. I live boarding school, so I live on campus. I looked out my window and here's this bright orange Volkswagen backed up to the main classroom building, right during a pandemic. Classes aren't in session. And what do I see? I see Langdon with his arms full of telescopes as he's walking out of the science building. I was not worried about him. I did shoot him a text message giving him a little bit of crap for it. Yeah, Eva, I hope that was helpful. If it's not, feel free to jump on the Discord, and might be a little bit easier to help with some screenshots and some code, and we might be able to give a little bit more detailed help there. So feel free to do that. Ping me. Happy to help. Yeah, right. I know. And actually, the funny thing is, those telescopes. Langdon, just cover your ears for this part. You don't want to hear this part. Those telescopes, like, they keep getting donated by somebody. I don't know. They just keep getting donated, and I swear, like, every semester I walk down the stairs to my classroom and there's a new telescope, and they're just like taking up space now. I've never used them. You know, they're a generous donation by somebody, but I don't know how to use them. Okay, so that's working. Our colors are working again, which is great. I'll go through that at some point and choose some colors that are not horribly obnoxious. But what I want to do next, this is something I kind of want to work on. If you've never played Trade Wars 2002, this is, so somebody brought up that this kind of had an FTL vibe, and definitely, like, the combat is intended to be, I think that's why I started warping around. The combat is definitely inspired by FTL. It's intended to be kind of that simple. You can pause the combat, think about what you're going to do, turn things on, shoot, whatever. It's not intended to be a fast-pitched twitchy game. But the other part of the game, and this, I just loved this game. Let's see if we can play a little video here. Was this game here. Let's see if we can. I loved this game, Trade Wars 2002. I played this in grade school. It was one of the first multiplayer games. You know, dial up on your modem, and you would literally just, I didn't know how to play. Way more to this game than I knew about when I was a kid. But basically, you move around sector to sector, like I was just showing, and you drop into these ports. You can buy stuff. You go to another port, you sell it, And eventually at some point you're able to upgrade your ship. You can start, and then you can start buying, well, you don't really buy, but you start finding sectors and you can build a planet in it. There was a Genesis torpedo and you could create a planet. And then I think you could create ports as well. And then you would end up protecting it. And then some of the sectors were, I think that was called Federation space, and that was for the beginner players. At the end of your turn, like you had a limited number of turns, 50 or 100 turns, or I don't know, 500 turns a day. You'd go back to the Federation space and you'd be safe there. And then you would form corporations, and it was all very to the 10-year-old me, it was incredibly exciting and interesting. Although you can see it's all text-based, the art's hilarious, right? You can still play this game, actually. There are still servers that'll play this game. And so what I want to work on is a long rambling intro, but what I want to work on is starting to build up that concept of sector ownership, so that those NPCs there are corporate ownership. So there's going to be corporations that are going to own sectors. So those NPCs, maybe instead of just like flying across the universe to come and attack me, they're going to protect the sectors that their corporation owns. There's going to be some sort of federation-y thing, which makes a safe spot for players as they get started. And so I kind of want to work on that and start to build that up. And that's what I want to work on today. We'll see how far I get. Let's see, we got a couple other questions here. You're a rookie game developer. What can you do? What can you do? I mean, practice. Read books, get on Reddit, get in forums, ask questions. If you can get books, read books, learn as much as you absolutely can. And just practice, give yourself time. I think a lot of people get discouraged when, they first get into Unity and there's all this flashy stuff and you make some progress for the first couple weeks and it's really fun, and then it gets hard. You got to give yourself time, and I don't mean like days or hours, I mean months and years. Just practice. I would also say make small games, make really small games. And once you feel sort of comfortable, and I mean just kind of sort of comfortable, start doing game jams. I think they're really great. If you got the time, to spend a weekend, 24 or 48 hours doing a game jam, do a game jam. You will learn more in that 48 hours making a game than you will in a month of, dinking around on your own project. You live for that kind of art. Well, yeah, I think it's pretty fun. I actually, for this game jam that Fraternal House was asking about and Langdon was talking about, it was my first 2D game. It kind of made me love 2D games. I've been thinking the last couple of years to focus more and more on my class that I teach, the game development class, to make it a 2D game. Or focus in on 2D. Some of my students have been doing that already, but having made my own game in 2D, I was like, it's the way to do it. Yeah, man, help. Happy to help. Happy to give advice, and but really just practice, and be patient. Nobody makes a great game the first time out. Nobody makes a great game in their first 1 or 2 years. You'll hear stories of people making great games. And if and there's kind of this mythology around it. Oh, they did it all by themselves. They worked 16-hour days for 4 years to get it done. But when you really dig into it, virtually every one of them has a background and been making games for years and had some level of experience. Nobody just picks up Unity and 2 years later has some game that's selling, 500,000 copies. This doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. Let's see. John B. Fanatical has a nice Unity book bundle. There you go. 2D isometric Fallout vibes. There you go. Yeah. Aquatic, thanks for joining. How you doing? Yeah, the Unity 2D tools have gotten much better. And even just like, I wasn't very sophisticated in how I was using Unity 2D tools or 2D. Because I'm still very much learning that tool set, but it was just so much easier to create a 2D game than a 3D game. And I don't think that's super obvious from the outside, but I think it really is true. Okay, so let's get on to keep the questions coming, but I'm gonna keep working here. If anybody's got Bolt questions, I've got a couple of Bolt projects open. Got a Bolt 1 and a Bolt 2 project open. If anybody's got questions, happy to answer those, but I'm gonna keep working here. So what I've got here, part of what broke my game over the last couple of months was this move to, I named this, but I'm not using ECS. I kind of moved to what I'm calling entities. And the idea there is I'm moving away from game objects. And when I first made this prototype of all those sectors on that map that I showed you were separate game objects. And they existed when you open the scene. There were 100 or 1,000 star systems, which obviously is not a great way to do it when you're only looking at one of them, and actually causes all kinds of other issues. So what I've been doing is moving all that game logic and the data into non-mono behaviors, meaning they're not components and they're not going to be on game objects. And the sector entity, which I haven't visited for a while, haven't looked at this for a while. This is one of them. So effectively, there's a game manager that just has a list of sector entities, and it has all this data on it. And some of this, like this, has been visited. That is just it's a navigation issue. That's for the we got a very loose A-star navigation system, which is how it how the player and the UI or the NPCs navigate around the sectors. So I think maybe the sector data is where I want to go. Let's take a look at what we got here. So I need to think about who's owning it. So we've got this corporation entity, like so. So I think one of the first things I want to do is generate a corporation. And I think the first one's going to be, we're going to call it the Federation, because I'm pretty sure that's what Trade Wars called it when they first started. And who am I to reinvent on a good thing? And so what I want, I think I would actually be pretty content tonight just to get the universe generator, the universe creator code that spawns all these star systems. I'd be pretty content if we can just claim like 6 or 7 of those for the Federation and then have that show up in the UI. And I'd be pretty, punching the microphone. And I'd be pretty content with that, but maybe I can go one step further and have my NPC avoid those zones, because that is definitely a mechanic in the original. So I think that I might be pretty happy with that. I might be digging myself in a little too deep. The corporations, they're pretty simplistic right now. I think they are basically, yeah. So there's a corporate entity. And so you can see here again, I keep using that word entity because it's just to kind of remind myself what's going on. So, right, so we've got kind of got our CEO, we've got our employees. So one of the things I'm hoping here is that you may actually be able to hire NPCs to kind of do trading for you, or, protect your sectors. You'll be able to buy ports, so you can actually own ports and get the profits from the sale. The planets, I should also fix the ability to back off from a planet, because that's kind of broken right now. But anyways, once you own a planet, you can build industry there, so that industry will then produce stuff for you that you can sell at your ports. Obviously then sectors that you've claimed, and then planets that you've claimed as well. That's pretty... I'm gonna sneeze. So that's not too bad. Lots of things to assign, but I think really probably not too much that needs to get done there. But let's see here. We got a couple questions here. Oh, quite a few questions. I've been ignoring the chat. The Mumbling Gamers. When would you suggest trying to make a 3D game? I really want to make a 3D stealth platformer. I mean, I don't think there's anything. Yeah, John B's absolutely right there. I don't think there's anything wrong with starting with 3D. Personally, that's where I started. And probably still my hesitation for 2D would be the art. For me to create art in Blender, with the exception of making like human characters, I feel pretty comfortable with that. I feel like I can do a pretty decent job of that. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with starting with a 3D game. The other way you could approach that, right, is if you're gonna do, a 3D platformer, that in itself, that can be pretty tricky to control and to actually make that good. I would say something like one of the other games I loved as a kid, if it was more like middle school or high school, but was the Commandos games. And I'm sure that was 2D at that point, but it was a top down. And so I think that's another way that you could start with 3D, and keep it simple so that you're top down and more or less all your game objects are still working in a plane. I think that's one way to do it. But yeah, I guess that would be my only caution there, would be that 3D platformers are hard to control. Like when the pandemic started, went and bought a Switch, and I haven't played it a ton, but I've been playing what is their Mario Odyssey, which is effectively a 3D platformer. It's pretty hard to play in some ways, and like it's actually, I find it, I'm not a huge game player, I actually find it pretty hard in that game to get Mario to jump onto an enemy. And I think they recognize that, because that mechanic itself is not terribly necessary, and that game is not punishing at all. It's just not a punishing game at all. So I guess that would be my other piece with that. Fraternal House, what is the easiest game to make with Bolt for newbies? Who was it? Somebody else was asking. Rollerball. The easiest genre, the 2D platformer is generally pretty easy to make. Those games, sorry, my nose is just itching like crazy. The thing that makes platformers hard in my mind, and maybe there's great solutions out to this, is number one, jumping. Jumping is really easy to make really bad. But there's some pretty good articles out there on jumping that can help you smooth out your code and make the jump better. The other thing that's hard there with the platformer is some platformers you can jump through the bottom of a platform and then land on the top of it. There's some mechanics there, some coding there that's tough, but I think that's a pretty easy genre to start with. The other, like as I was saying, the top-down game is pretty, I think, pretty easy. Maybe not a super beginner friendly game, but top down where you're moving around on a plane, good place to start for beginners, in my opinion. Let's see, Aquatic, you got another question. You're new to using Unity, and for some reason I'm not able to autofill IntelliSense for Unity based stuff like Force and Rigidbody. Do you know how that's done? You're on VS Code, by the way. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. I've had, there you go, Pedro, Pong, yes, make Pong. There's your simple game. But in all honesty, right, Pong is a good first game to make. Learn what's going on. And if you guys are unaware, Unity Learn is all free now. And I think for a long time, maybe permanently. It's got some really good stuff on there. Got some really, really good stuff. I was hugely impressed. Hugely impressed the last few weeks as I've been starting to plan my own class. But Aquatic, your point on visual scripting without the autofill IntelliSense, I've had this same problem, and you'll notice here, let's see, and maybe somebody's found a way around this. I'm using Visual Studio 2017. I had problems with 2019 that I wasn't getting the autofill, the IntelliSense to work. That was a problem 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And the solution was to roll back to 2017. I think maybe a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I tried going back to 2019 and still had the same problem. So I don't know if that's a Unity version issue or what's going on. Maybe folks that are in chat have had a similar issue, but that's my solution. Roll it back to 2017. And the other piece to, and maybe this is already done, but you'll want to go into preferences. Is this where it is? External tools. And here under external tools, you want to make sure that you've chosen the right version. The other piece you want to do with that is, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I've used Visual Studio Code, but you want to make sure that you have the Unity package installed. That's an option when you install Visual Studio. When you download it or when you install it, there's a Unity package that you need. So check those things. I am not a Visual Studio expert. I'm a pretty basic user. The Mumbling Gamers, would a 2D tutorial help you make a 3D game? Yes. Yes, I think it would. So what I would do, if you can't find a 3D game in the genre or that's helping you with the game that you want to make, start with the 2D, right? And what you're going to learn in that process is how to code, how Unity works. And what you'll find is a lot of the stuff works exactly the same. But instead of using a 2D collider, you're just using instead of a 2D square collider, I forget what they call it, you're going to use a box collider. One of the things I ran into with the Game Jam when I was making a 2D game, like raycasting, there's a 2D raycast and the inputs were different. And so that took me a little bit to learn, but the basics ideas were all the same. So yeah, it goes again to some of the stuff I was saying to other people, just be patient, learn, and make games. I often think too, sometimes like people have this like vision of this beautiful game that they want to make. This is the game they just want to make. And that shouldn't be your first game. It shouldn't be your first game. You should hold that off and learn how to make games. And then after your third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 15th game, then you go to your dream game and make that game. Because then you'll have the skills and the know how to do it. It's my 2 cents. Yeah, Aquatic, let me know. Let me know if that helps. If not, again, I offer this up to somebody else too. Like, jump on the Discord, and sometimes we can, because you can share screenshots and what have you. It's a little bit easier to go back and forth there. So happy to answer those questions. John B, I'm not sure if that's a question there. Character controller versus rigid body, which is the better option? Is that a question? I'll definitely take that as a compliment, that if you think my 2 cents are solid advice. I think this is the 6th year that I'll be teaching a game design class in high school, and a high school level, and I have learned a lot from my students, watching them struggle. I think one of the things that I am way better at now than I was when I started teaching that class was helping to guide my students to a better project. This year's projects got totally buggered up by the whole COVID thing, because our school year ended early. But I think this year's projects were on track to be the best projects I've had since I've started the game, or started the class. The first year, all my students' games looked like really bad Game Jam games. Hard to control. They were all 3D. The camera was all wacky. They weren't fun. And it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to guide them. And they took on games that were way too complex. All right. I love just kind of chatting and answering the questions, but I'm gonna keep working here. John B, you got JetBrains Writer. I've heard that's great, and mostly I've heard that from Jason Weinman's YouTube channel. He's a big fan of that one. I've heard it's great. I've heard it's amazing. Just super cool. Yep, exactly. Learn the basic stuff, and then you progress. And read books. I was trying to see if I can move my camera around, but see if I can. I don't know how well you can see that. A bookshelf. Some of those are educational books or physics books, but most of those are game design books. And I've got another box somewhere else. Read books on code, read books on game design. If you really want to get good at this, immerse yourself in it as much as you can, and stop making complex games. So John B, which is better, player controller versus rigid body? I mean, I think it totally depends on how you want to run your game. I mean, I think certainly rigid body is, I think, is faster to get going. It's quicker to get going than trying to design your own player controller. That said, it can be really tricky to get the physics to work right. I think it's quicker to get going. I'm not sure it's any quicker to polish. I think I would, if I was doing, say, like a 2D, like side-scrolling Super Mario style platformer, I would probably still use a physics controller, because that brings me gravity. By doing that, I'm working nicely with the physics engine, so I get collision. But it's a lot more complicated than just, say, adding force and jumping or moving, right? There's got to be a lot more going on there. But I think it depends on your mechanics, how you're doing it. If I was like a top down and I wasn't worried about gravity, I would probably use a player controller, or just control it on my own. Gravity's not that hard to simulate, actually. It's actually fairly straightforward to simulate. Just a couple lines of code can simulate gravity. But yeah, it's tough. Pedro, any suggestions of books? Did I include it in the description? I don't actually have it here. Let me, yeah, I can, somebody asked me this a while back on a stream. So I put together a page of books, and this is not exhaustive by any means, but these are books that I have read recently and or have an older version of, and I thought they were great. I'll drop this into chat. Oops. There's a link to a list of books that I think are pretty good. A lot of the actual game design books that game design's the wrong term. The Unity specific ones that I have read that were super, super helpful were based on Unity 5. So as much as I loved them, they're not up to date, and it would be a huge disservice for me to recommend them. No worries. Like, I don't have the description pulled up here. I didn't know. I couldn't remember if I'd actually managed to drop it into the description. Okay, so let's get serious here about our corporations here. So let's look at our game managers, because let's see if we get. So here's our entity manager. This guy is dealing with all of our entities. So we need, and this is kind of what I thought, we need to add in a list of corporation entities. I cannot spell. Discovered the last couple of days that my website, which I run through Squarespace, does not have spell checking. And I've been making I've started doing blog posts of future videos. It's a way for me to get my ideas organized, and then it more or less turns into a script. And I didn't realize that there was no, like, even just basic spell check. And I copied all the text into a Google Doc to edit it for a script. And all of a sudden, like, the script just like lit up in bright red. I was rather horrified by how many spelling mistakes I'd made. And just basic grammar made me laugh. Okay, so now we've got our corporation list. And so I'm always torn with lists, whether to make them public or not. And giving some control. One of the things that I have decided I like to do is to have these functions like this that I'm going to add to the list, or get something from the list. And if nothing else, it gives me a place to debug. So, right, I have all these entity lists, and if they were public, anybody could add to them and remove from them, and it's hard to... I lose a little bit there, because then I might have like 12 different scripts that are adding or removing to it. And then later in the game, or in the development of the game, I discover that, okay, every time a new entity is added, I also need to do this. And if instead I sort of wrap that list, you can't really create a getter and setter for a list that's functional, as far as I know. And that's what I'm effectively doing with these functions, is creating public getters and setters, sort of, or public adders and getters. It gives me a way to control that, so I know that every time something's happening to this list, it's going through one of these functions. I don't know if that makes sense. I think by the end of the night, I'm gonna be able to spell corporation correctly.
Hey, Wendy here from Science Versus.
It might take all night.
On the messy world of news and internet fights to find out what's real.
All right. Corporation. I don't know why I can't get the COR. That's
We be wearing homemade masks, like from t-shirts.
All of those properties that we like in our t-shirt make them problematic to use as a
I
message.
got it that time.
Super free on Spotify.
All right.
Wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Science.
Somebody's shooting at fireworks outside. So all I'm doing here is we got a static list. So I'm gonna have a static function that's gonna add something to it, and then
If you already have a FanDuel Sportsbook account,
just like we've got here, I don't think there's anything special happening here. Here, this is pretty silly here because this is a little silly here. So when you return a list, you're returning the reference to it. So you're effectively returning the whole thing. You're effectively giving public access to that list. I've done a little bit of research and it's kind of hard to get around. Oh, it's actually gonna like, wow.
Float is dedicated to ice and beer. And the snow won't drive us indoors. We'll just kick back in our hot tub and stash our Coors Light.
But at least it like, it's at least a little bit of a reminder that I shouldn't be mucking about with this list. But I want to leave it this way. Okay, so now we can get and set. These are private static lists. Odin will, well, let's do this. You guys know you can do this in Odin. You can show a private static field with Odin. There's also a static inspector. That's what they call it, static inspector. I should know that. I'm pretty sure I made a video about it. Pretty damn handy. Let's see here. We got a few more comments. John B. Grammarly is awesome. I know. I use Grammarly all the time. It's the only thing that makes me sound remotely educated when I send an email, but it doesn't work in Squarespace. Corporation. You guys are hilarious. I don't know why it doesn't work. I don't know, it doesn't work. I'm gonna have to start writing my blog post in Google Docs and then move it over. I actually like writing the blog post on Squarespace. If it works for me, I can add my pictures as I go. It works pretty well, but I guess we'll have to go the other way around. Okay, so now we can add and get get that list. Let's make sure that shows up. Should get our entity, our corporate entity list showing up there. There it is. So again, for those of you guys unfamiliar with static things, without Odin, it is a pain in the butt to get them to be able to see them in the inspector. Pretty damn awesome. Okay, so that's in there. Now for our universe creator, this is the giant. Actually, this one's not as bad as the ship generation code. Let's minimize all of our functions. So here, what I need to do is, at some point here, we're gonna, so you can see here, we're generating the NPCs. Going to need to generate corporations. I don't think for this game I have any great aspirations of corporations being hugely dynamic. Hopefully they're a little dynamic. But for right now, corporations are going to be pretty static. They're going to start with the sector. But at some point, we're going to have to generate a bunch more of those. Let's see, John B, you've been toying around with building a 3D side scroller. I think that can work. I mean, again, 3D side scroller, if it's truly side scrolling and your player can only move in 2 dimensions, that can be pretty cool. Or if you do, like, I think like you could do some sort of like cool mechanic like Fez. I don't know if you guys played the game Fez, where you can like rotate. It's effectively a 2D game, but you can rotate. I think Fez does that. Maybe I'm making that up. Anyways, you could do some pretty cool mechanics like that. All right. So what we're going to do here, we're going to generate the Federation entity. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a new corporation entity. I'll see that. I kind of spelled it almost right. Spelled it right enough that the autocomplete could pick it up. Okay. New corporation like this. Okay, so we're just going to create a new corporation. We're then going to get our entity manager. Add corporate entity. We're going to add the Federation. Boom, done. Game complete. Then what I want to do is we're going to start off. We want to give it some sectors. And so what I'm thinking of, sector 0 is where you start. And then we'll probably make the Federation a little bit bigger. In the original Trade Wars, I don't know if it was sector 0 or sector 1, but the Federation had like 6 or 7 sectors. And so we'll spread those out and we'll use nearby sectors so that, right, we're not getting random sectors. But let's start off with total brain fart. Let's start off with one sector here. So we need to actually add a sector. And how are we going to do that? So let's look at this, how we are. Do we have anything for our sector? So we get a sector energy. So here we go. I've already got my function written to grab by sector number, which is awesome. So we can do that. We can already do that. We even got a sector exists, so we can check that. Awesome. Let's just make sure that this is actually returning our entity. Yeah, let's see if it works. So one of the things I've had to do is I've had to start using this GUID, which is a great way to do a lot of things. It's just something I had to kind of learn and figure out in this project. Well, I just want to make sure this is going to work by what did I call that function? I just want to make sure this is going to work by get sector identity. Static, get sector identity. Get sector entity. That should name that one better. And okay. So we're just going to get that sector. We're going to return it in. We're going to add that to the Federation. Boom, we're done. Let's see if that works. And then let's see what. Posting a few things in chat here. Peter, you implemented your first FSM. Nice. C# FSM. It's awesome. Oh. Where's this error? Oh, I didn't save it. Okay. Yeah, Peter, this that universe generator's got a fair number of lines of code. Not nearly as bad as my ship generator code. I think my ship generator's got, I trimmed it down a while back. I think it's got at least 1,500 lines of code. It may have, at one point it had over 3,000 lines of code. And it's not done yet. And that's what we mean, right? Like when we talk about, no, it didn't. Okay, that didn't show up. Oh, here's a classic mistake. Write a function and then never call it. Okay, so what we want to do here, generate, I love, that's just a beautiful function right there. Generate universe. And we're gonna generate federation. But this is what we mean when people start streaming with too large of a game. Like, it just gets super complex in a hurry. This game, one of the reasons I've gone with it, I've said this many times before, I've been a little distracted with the YouTube channel the last year or so as it's started to grow a little bit, is that I could, I was able to prototype this game in just a few weeks. I was able to build the universe. I was able to build a shipbuilder. I was able to get my inventory system up and running. All those things, it works. Okay, so there's our sector list. And this is sector 0. So I think my sector stats are not getting updated. Oh, you know what we need? We need the other piece. So the corporation knows that it owns this entity. But the sector doesn't know that it's owned by the entity. Yeah, Langdon, clean code. Clean code. I still haven't finished that book. I have a tendency of getting halfway through books and not finishing them. Implementing a little bit of the clean code ideas in robotics last year was huge. And I think, haven't decided this 100% yet, Langdon. I don't think you signed. I don't think Langdon. I don't think you signed up for my classes. Jerk. I think game design is going to be C# based next year. Not abandoning Bolt, but I think it might. It might be C# based. All right, we're gonna do this add sector. So we're gonna do the same kind of thing. Sector entity. So we're gonna, and the reason I'm gonna do this again is kind of that same reason. So I want to protect these lists from, right? Because right now they're all public, which is fine, but that means anybody can screw around with them. And so what's happening is I can now add a sector to a corporation, but then I also have to add the corporation to the sector. So why not do that all in one step? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna say sector list, add sector. Okay, great. And then we're gonna take that sector and we're gonna talk about owner. Let's see, let's actually go and look at our sector entity. Sector data, okay. Pretty sure, I bet you it's in there. Corporate entity, great. Okay, sector data. Let's do the same thing here. I think you can get carried away with it, but I really don't like setting values of a variable from another class. And I don't like it because I think it just breaks things. Do this owner equals owner. Little underscore in there. And if the owner is already set, we're going to debug error or warning. Let's do a warning. Owner already exists. The dumb developer needs to finish this mechanic. So same kind of idea there, right? Like we're going to do this and we're going to add a, did I not make that set owner? So yeah, just like same idea. I would much rather set the values of things via a function like that, which probably means that I should come up here and do something like entity, we'll do an owner, and then this is gonna break stuff, but
I can't believe you're not listening yet. This okay, I'm sorry, I'm mad, but I'm mad. Okay, I'm fine now. This season we've got Quentin Tarantino.
because I can avoid a public setter, so that cannot be set. Now you're gonna scream at me. No, let's get rid of that thing again. Okay. Yeah,
First off, FanDuel is adding $10 in
I like to avoid public fields if at all possible.
You already have a FanDuel sportsbook account.
Oh, Langdon, you did sign up for. Oh, I think maybe I knew you signed up for physics. You signed up for robotics.
FanDuel sportsbook app and use referral code Spotify. 21 plus. Present in Colorado. Offer ends August 2nd, 2020.
You should call me tomorrow.
Bonus issued as non-withdrawable site.
Let's talk robotics.
August 2nd, 2020. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Good boy, bad. Sorry you're late. No worries. Thanks for joining. Thanks for showing up.
All we need is a tent and a fire to create our new favorite outdoor bar. We love floating down the Colorado River, especially when the VIP float is dedicated.
Let's see, Peter. You watched the Fez gameplay. Thought you could do that with a Metrovania level. Yeah, I mean, I think it was hard. I mean, I was just getting into game design as Fez was kind of making its way out, and it was a big deal. That game took forever to make. I don't know if it was complex or the developer was just super perfectionist.
Talk to your doctor. It could save your life.
Yeah, Langdon. Sorry, but yeah, definitely. Let's chat. Doesn't have to be tomorrow, but let's chat about robotics. You weren't on my original list, so that's not that big of a problem. But yeah, let's chat. Okay, so now we got added our sector. Our sector's got its owner set. And we're doing this all through functions. I think these all need to be. I'm gonna see how much I'm gonna break. See is this used at all? Okay, we're only using it internally, which is great. Show. Oh, I don't have Odin in here. I mean, I get paid by those guys, but Odin is freaking amazing. If you're gonna start developing a real project, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna start making a project, Odin is freaking huge. If you're just gonna be messing around, if you're just making game jam games, not that crucial. Nope. There we go. I'm sure there's reasons why you need to set values from other classes, but I just really don't like it. Don't like doing it. Functions. Or at least controlled getters and setters. Those can work too, because that's essentially the same. As far as I'm concerned, creating custom getters and setters is pretty much the same thing as functions. Okay, we are still unclaimed. Oh, we're gonna cause all kinds of How does the owner of this thing already exist? Need to work on that one with Odin, make that one a little bit prettier. There we go. I've got a button that updates the thing. I should just have it when this value changes, it updates this. Would be a much better thing to do. All right, well let's who owns this crap? Yeah, or Unity is not a small. It takes a long time to load. The other thing, I think I was saying this the other day. Maybe I was saying this during a game jam. One of the things that if you got a big project, yeah, I know it's null. All right, let's do this another way. Let's be less dumb. If you have a whole bunch of music files or image files or just assets that you have like brought in because you've been experimenting with the asset or asset store or anything like that, that can hugely slow down your project and make projects way harder to load. One of the things I was amazed at when I was doing the game jam was that project is so much smaller than this one. The compiling of the code, the loading, all that stuff was way faster. So if you've got those assets that are, these big packets of sound effects, move it into another folder that's outside of your project and then just bring in the audio clips or the textures or the models that you need. It can really help. Okay, so we're still displaying that. We're gonna get all kinds of like run. Okay, sector 0. So we own this. Oh, entity name, no name. What if I change this? Me. My corporation. I'm pointing to the screen. You can't see my hand. Awesome. Okay, so that sector is now owned by that company. Great. Let us go back to our universe creator, and we're gonna do federation entity name equals the federation. And this is one of the things like I like. This is what makes me feel good when I'm developing these games and struggling through these things. I just added in a feature and it took just a few lines of code and it worked pretty flawlessly. That makes me feel like, I'm probably totally wrong, but it makes me feel like I've got the framework here. The underlying framework is pretty good. I added a feature, it didn't break anything, it worked. Okay, so now we got our federation here. We're definitely gonna have to add like corporations or entity. Actually, I'm pretty sure. Let's go here, look and see. Go to our entity base. Yep, we've got kind of an alignment thing. We've got a reputation. So we've got the basis of some sort of system. Because what I'm thinking here is we need to be able to not only just name an owner, we want to be able to, like, that NPC needs to look at it and be like, nah, I'm not going in there. Yeah, it's always a good day when you don't break your own project. Yeah, just you know, plug the channel a little bit. I've been having a ton of fun with these programming pattern videos, and like the programming patterns are all about that, right? Clean code, programming patterns, making stuff so that you don't break your game every time you add something. I horribly broke my game over the last multiple months, as I was saying earlier in the stream, like I took this core idea of like everything was game objects and ripped it out and turned it all into these entities. That broke my game horribly, but that was not sure you can get around that super well. Changing from mono behaviors to non-mono behaviors and game objects to non-game objects was a little brutal. So let's look at our base. Well, let's do our alignment piece here a little bit. I don't know how this is gonna go, but let's do. Alignment, let's do 1,000. Okay, should be it's a float. All right, whatever. We're gonna set that as 1,000. We're gonna say positive's good, negative's bad, and then what we want to do is let's see who's all subscribed to this event here. Let's get over to our NPC manager. And here we go. We're going to go with our pirate behavior. So right now, you like this. This is a great comment here. Add more sophistication. So what my intention is that there's going to be a handful of different NPC behaviors. I believe I made the transition that they are all scriptable objects. So there's going to be just kind of like this drag and drop. Let's see here. Maybe it's not. Oh yeah, no, that's a scriptable object. So there's just this drag and drop brain, basically. We drop this in, and again, it's just kind of got functions and what have you. It takes inputs, outputs. I can drop this into any NPC and it'll just take on the different behavior, which is what I'm looking for. So, I need to think about this one. Basically, so what I want here is, I want this NPC right now will just come. I think right now it's, yeah, like it's just like it just comes like straight to the player. Yeah, it does like do attack player. Just like I can't. Somewhere in here we're just like going straight to the player, which is pretty dumb. But that was the again just testing to see if we can like start combat and get all that going. But what I want that to do here is see if we can avoid this pirate, presumably not a good guy, from going into the Federation space. I'm gonna take a real quick break here and I'll come back, do a little bit more work, and I'm gonna take a quick break. See you guys, and I'll be back in like 3 minutes. And then we're gonna make this pirate stay out of the Federation space, if we're lucky.
When T.I. was a kid, he wanted to buy a raunchy record.
I just really wanted to hear the curse word. I wanted to hear how far they were willing to go.
To find out, listen to Mogul, the show where we talk to people we love about their favorite moments in hip-hop history.
I was like, yo, people can do this? God damn.
The Mogul Mixtapes. Tap now to listen for free on Spotify.
Sports are back, and you can find great ways to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. First off, FanDuel is adding $10 in free bets to every account, no strings attached. If you already have a FanDuel Sportsbook account, then you're all set. Just use your $10 bonus by August 2nd. And if you're new, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and use referral code SPOTIFY. 21 plus, present in Colorado. Offer ends August 2nd, 2020. $10 bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires on August 2nd, 2020.
Okay.
Problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
It starts small.
Oh, let's see. You got a few questions, a few comments in here. Let's see what we got.
And when buying a car, you know you have to compromise.
What about the all-new Nissan Sentra?
Sometimes you'll hop back into a project in Blender and there's a bunch of missing geometry and I want to blame Blender, so it's so bad that the better part of me knows I just screwed up. Sometimes, yeah. I think it's just hard to go back to a project. I'm actually this next year going to teach a short class using Blender. I'm kind of excited. I'm joining my 4th academic department this year. I'm going to teach 9th grade art survey. It's gonna be fun. Let's see, Pedro. Yeah, I recently learned of the singleton pattern. Haven't used it yet. Need to learn more. Yeah, the singleton's kind of got a bad reputation in a lot of circles, and I sort of understand. I think the singleton pattern, my feeling at my level of experience, I'd kind of consider myself kind of intermediate here. The singleton pattern, I suspect, breaks on large projects when you are working in teams and things don't behave quite like you want them to. One of the problems with the singleton pattern is that when you have that, other code expects that object to be in the scene and it's not necessarily there. That's a problem. And so things can break pretty quickly. For small games, I think it can work pretty well. But yeah, learn about your patterns. They all have pros and cons. The singleton definitely, I think, because it's one of the easiest and most convenient for people who are beginning or learning to code. It gets overused. When you're first learning, the singleton pattern seems like magic. So I think it gets overused, but People definitely don't like it. I think its bad reputation is not 100% deserved, but also never worked with. I've never developed a game with another person, let alone a team of 10 or 20 or 100. So I don't know. Langdon, yeah, I'm gonna love this. Was the art survey class my idea? Well, sort of actually. Langdon, Kermer and I were kind of pushing for it a little bit. We've been trying to figure out how to get more computer science exposure, right? Because I think most people who take a computer science class here at the school, they generally enjoy it. But they're scared to take it. And I don't know if they're scared of me, they're scared of Eric. I guess we can both be scary at different times. They're scared of programming, they're scared of this, they think this is what everything in a computer is going to look like. It's just this wall of text. So we were pushing for it, and then the whole pandemic thing came up, and we got to shrink class sizes a little bit. And so this is one way to add a new art to art survey. I think there's going to be 4 arts now instead of 3, and students are going to get to choose their top 3. I don't know that 100%, but I'm pretty excited about it. I actually, they're definitely scared of me. I know they are. What can you do? I think it's the biker arms. They're scared. They're scared of the biker arms. So I think it'll be good. I actually taught art survey for like last 2.5 weeks of the 4th quarter, giving Nancy a little bit of a break to try to figure out how in the world you do school in a pandemic. So okay, let's see if we can. Let's think about. I'm in the wrong window here. Here is our pirate. Very good code there. Let's look at our base class here. So the other thing here with these entities, a lot of these things have these do turns here. And so what this does is, again, the manager has a list of these entities, and it's just going to call do turn on these different things, which is how one manager is going to run all these different NPCs. And again, this is an abstract class. So everything that inherits from this is guaranteed to have this do turn, makes it super easy to call and run that way. You can see a bunch of these classes are either static or abstract. So, I mean, I don't want to put an alignment on here. So that's definitely true. I don't want an alignment here. That's not good. I don't want to put an alignment on NPC behaviors. That would be bad because it's a scriptable object, and so that's shared by all. Here, do we have... Let's go back and look at our base. Do we have... Well, of course we don't. We don't have anything here. So, okay. So we're going to do move here. So let's see here if we... Yeah, this is where it gets tricky, right? Because I want to build this in such a way that I don't want to hack this together. We want to make this nice and systematic. And so down here is where we're getting our here's where we're doing our navigation. So Here's where we're finding our path. This is a horrible line. Let's break this. Well, let's not split it that way. That's a dumb way. Let's split it after the comma. And okay. So what we're doing here. So the other piece here is we're getting this path, right? We're getting this path through here. And we need to avoid sectors that we shouldn't go into. And so part of that is, right, if we're going from sector 10 to sector 5 and somewhere in the middle, sector 7, we shouldn't go through that, then we need to go around that, or we can't do that path. So our find path here is going to have to get a little bit more sophisticated. Tech Dave, welcome back. I've never played Rocket League. Does that make me a bad person? I've never played it. I actually find myself playing less and less games. Oh, yeah, I missed that comment there, Tech Dave. About Pedro, 6.5 minutes to create a new 2D project. What is going on? Yeah, that seems like a lot. Yeah, Pedro, I don't know if you're still here. Old computer? I was actually playing I was playing a game last night. What I find now is that I buy a game, you know, not super expensive games, usually small little, I guess indie games you'd call them, you know, and I'll play them for a few nights, maybe a week. That's usually about it. And I kind of like look at the game design. I kind of try to learn what they're doing, kind of evaluate the game. And then I tend to get bored and I move on. There's a handful of games that have sucked me in and I go back to. But one of the things I've noticed, and again, maybe this is just because I'm an old fart with too much else to do. I've noticed a lot of games when you get into them, or the games that the genres that I like, which tend to be more like RimWorld kind of strategy games, they're super overwhelming. A lot of them are super overwhelming with how much options they give you. And I was playing this game. It's in early access, so whatever. The reviews of it were great. It was like there were so many buttons and so much text on the screen. I was just like, no part of me wanted to get into that. I was gonna, and that was one of the complaints in the reviews. I should have listened to the reviews better. But like, I find this a lot of games, like there's not like this progression of opening up features. I feel like more and more games are like, here's all the features, go. And I find it hard to get into. And maybe that's just the difference between, you know, that's just hard, right? Teaching people how to play your game is hard, but I feel like when I've played more AAA level games, I don't find that as much to be true. I definitely found that in the Game Jam a couple weeks ago, that getting into some of those games, I had no idea what was going on. I think you could actually make that criticism about my game too, but anyways, I'm ranting. Let's make some better code here. Let's go look at our Dijkstra path and okay, so where is this getting called? This is getting called from the pirate behavior, which is a problem. Boo, boo, boo. So the reason that's a problem is because this scriptable object has no connection to the entity itself, to the NPC itself. This is just it's the brain of it, but it doesn't have any data on it. So let's go look and see what our brain has to tell us here. What do we have access to? There is our character. Okay, that's what we need right there. So our NPC's got our character, our individual entity. Great. Which means our pirate behavior can't access it because we have this input parameter. Great. Again, I feel like I almost know what I'm doing coding that right. Yeah, that's interesting that you're finding that too, that you're playing less games but you're more interested in it. I've never been a huge gamer. I haven't been. You know, I've talked about a couple tonight. I've talked about a couple games that I played, like Trade Wars, the original, Commandos. I loved that game. And I remember, I don't know how old I was when my dad got me the very first Civilization game. I loved that game. And to this day, Civilization, I think I've owned every version of it, or every major version of it on PC, and I love that game. But the thing that got me into Unity and this game design world was not this love of video games. It was the desire to create. I loved the creative aspect of it. I loved that it was analytical creativity. Like my background's math and physics. And I loved the creativity of creating something. That's what was appealing to me. But I do think, I think there's something to be said for just, you know, I joke a little bit, like you start finding that there's other things to do. Like if I spend 4 hours playing a game, that's 4 hours that I could have been making a game. That's 4 hours that I could have been writing a script, coming up with a project for a new video.
FanDuel is adding $10 in free bets to every account. No strings attached. If you already have a FanDuel Sportsbook account, then you're all set.
And realizing how much time it takes to do those other things, you know, I'll go up, you know, every once in a while, you know, I'll go up and fire up, you know, Mario Brothers game and play for an hour, but you know, it's an hour, it's maybe 45 minutes, that's it. You know, when I was a kid, I remember like my thumbs getting sore and putting band-aids on my thumb from playing Super Mario Brothers too much, but yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure, you know, if it's just, I'm not sure why we do that.
Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so now is a great time to call 8.
Yeah, and I think you're right too, right? The games feel generic. They're not, the bar for making games has become so low that a lot of people are doing it. And when the bar lowers, that doesn't mean you have more good games. It means you just have more games. And I do think it's harder. I don't think there's any more or any less good games than there was, you know, 5 or 10 years ago. It's just that there's a whole lot more games. Yeah, tutorials are hard, but I find RimWorld, like, again, I've never, like, I see pictures of these like giant bases with like 100 people in it and all that kind of stuff, and I have never put the kind of time into RimWorld for that. But I don't think the learning curve for RimWorld is that tricky. I don't know if I got it on an early version and kind of learned my way through it. But even like Civilization, I don't think the learning curve for Civilization is that crazy hard. There's a lot of subtlety and there's a lot of information, but it's not like in your face. You're not overwhelmed by it. You're not, you know, like I was playing a game last night. I know it's a little indie game. It's made by one guy. He's doing a good job. But like, it's, you know, this base building game, kind of RimWorld-esque, and all the buildings were accessible, all of them from the very, very beginning. And so you're like, I was searching through these menus and having to read the descriptions for this building, and then read the description for this building, this building, this building. And a couple of times I would build a building, and then there'd be this big error that would pop up. Well, you can't build this building because you don't have this resource. You know, and I had, you know, so it's made me think about this game here, that how do we ease the player into it, right? So if this is going to have all these different resources and options and yada yada, how do we ease the player into it so that those extra features feel like an optional way to play? They feel like, oh, I'm discovering that now I can go down to this planet, I can drop colonists off here, I can discover those things without it being, you have to know how to do that before you can play the game. I don't know. I'm ranting a little bit, but it's interesting. Yeah, right. The creative thing. And I will admit, the YouTube channel, between this one and creating videos for Odin, takes a lot of time. A lot of time and a lot of thought. And actually, one of the best things that I've done was slowed down on my own channel and got rid of this BS that you have to make a video every week or publish regularly. And I've slowed down, and I'd like to think videos are getting better. Let's see here what you're saying. So as for the generic feeling, are we out of ideas, or are we overwhelmed with lazy ideas? The larger studios being more conservative. I think there's a lot of things there. I think the larger studios are certainly being conservative. When you're spending $100 million on a game, you can't afford to take risks. You just can't. And right, that's a whole different ball game than like what I'm doing here, right? What am I risking? Time, my own time. I have a paycheck, I have a house, I have all those things, so it's not that big of a deal. I think the big studios are definitely being conservative, but I also think that the bigger studios, I think they've gotten sucked into bigger is better. I think it would be really fascinating to take a big studio with, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in budget, and instead of making, 2 big games or 3 big games, what if you took your 100 engineers and you broke them into 10 teams and funded them and let them create a game? Same time frame, you got 2 years, make a game, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, make a game. I think it would be interesting to see what they could come up with the experience and the skill and the know-how. I think it'd be really interesting. But for the other points, I don't think we're out of ideas. Everybody always thinks we're out of ideas because it's really hard to come up with new ideas. And it doesn't matter whether you're in games or anything else. It's hard to come up with new ideas. And I think that's just the way it is. It's like, try to sit down and think of something brand new. It's really hard. And I think it's less to do with that we've run out of ideas and more to do with just the fact that it's really hard to be totally original. So that's my 2 cents on it. As for lazy ideas, I think the bar is lowered. And so if you look at the Game Jam games from a couple weeks ago that I was part of, some of those games are horrible. Some of them are just really horrible. And I don't think it's because they're lazy. I just think the bar is low, and so anybody can jump in and make a game. Yeah, John B, what's the next evolution? Where's the hidden style? Right? Yeah, somebody's gonna mix and match. Somebody's gonna, break a rule and try something different. You know, I saw a game the other night, or last night I was browsing Steam trying to look for a new game, and you know, it was definitely RPG-esque, but there was a Graveyard Keeper, and the whole game was based around like starting and maintaining a graveyard in an RPG world. You know, and so I think there's things like that. Like I actually, the game Shopkeep had its flaws, but I actually thought that was a really clever, fun game. It was first person, so it made me nauseous. I didn't get to play it all that long. I thought it was really clever. Instead of being the RPG hero, you run the shop and supply all those guys. I think that, I mean, it may not have been a brand new idea, but I think it was really clever. And if I made that game, I would be really darn proud. You can pick on it and say it's not a great game, or the developers abandoned the game or whatever, but it's pretty cool. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we are going to send in the NPC entity, what did I call it? Character. Okay. So we're going to pass that in. Of course, we're going to get an error here. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to have an individual entity. Character. And let's give it a default of null, because I don't want to break up, not two equals. We're going to give it a default value of null. That way I don't break any other code that's using this. Because, right, so my playership is definitely using that. And we could change that, right? We could change that. That's not that hard to do. But I want to feed in this individual entity so that we have some information as to maybe what sectors we want to avoid. Let's see here, Pedro, I got a comment from you. You know, the feeling I'm past the middle of electrical engineering, and I discovered that game development in the beginning of college, fell in love with all the creativity. Also always loved gaming. Yeah, the creativity is awesome. Right? Like, it's been interesting during this pandemic. Like, we've been trying to we're here in the States. I'm not sure where you're all from, but things are not pretty here. The area that I live in actually is not doing particularly well. Definitely not the worst in the country, but it is not doing well. And I've been just staying at home, trying to not do a whole lot. And anyways, but it spent a lot more time working on videos and such things, and it's definitely made me wonder, like, is this something that I want to do all day, every day, 40, 50, 60 hours a week? I don't know. Sometimes the thing that you think you want to do isn't the thing you actually want to do. Oh, John B, I didn't see the Xbox showcase. Were they showing off some of the new games for the new whatever version of Xbox they're calling this one? Okay. So now we've got this character in here. I mean, maybe I should just feed in. Maybe we should just, let's find all references. Let's do, this is my ship movement. It doesn't have any. Ship movement has no idea what entity it's moving around. It doesn't need to, and it just kind of I don't think it should. It's actually on my ship movement. Oh, interesting. All right, pushing the wrong buttons. Huh. That's not actually getting called. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm bouncing all over the place because I'm getting tired. So we're going to do this one thing and then we're going to call it quits because I've been on here for 2.5 hours. Oh, John B. PC's included on the new Xbox? Oh. I've heard that they were trying to merge those ecosystems. I also heard the Xbox is basically a computer, so. Okay, so let's do, we're gonna do a little hacky. Do a little hacky. All right. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get an alignment. Okay, we're gonna set this equal to 0, and we're gonna say if the character is not null, then alignment equals character alignment. Why did I make alignment a float? I don't know why you. Ugh. Why would I do that? There. It's dumb. Floats are dumb. I don't like floats because I can't compare them. And what I'm going to do here is, so we're going to have positive and negative alignment. And I might change this up to have, you know, 2-dimensional alignment. But at this point, though, we're just going to have kind of the good, the bad, and the neutral in between. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to set it to 0. So if we don't put it in a character, we're assuming we're neutral and we can move around. And we're just gonna, it's a little hacky that we're doing it that way. I don't love it, but I think that's better than overloading this path. I mean, I guess I could overload it. Let's do that.
Packed with all you need to create music. Use it on any device, anywhere, with anyone.
Okay.
Making is in our blood. Tap the banner to sign up for free.
Let's just getting rid of some junk. Okay, we're gonna overload this thing.
Sports are back, and you can find great ways to win on FanDuel Sportsbook.
Okay. So we're gonna have this one, and we'll have only 2 input parameters.
If you already have a FanDuel,
shrink that up, and this one's gonna have 3.
Just use your $10 bonus by August
Okay.
2nd. And if you're new, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and use referral code Spotify. 21 plus. Present in Colorado. Offer ends August 2nd, 2020. $10 bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires on August 2nd, 2020.
I don't love it, but I think it's better to have these 2 functions and then maybe
The right degree, the right career. Choose a university that didn't just arrive in the online world.
Yeah.
It was built for it. We're CSU Global.
probably not great to have 2 identical chunks like this.
Community of highly trained digital educators. An institution made for the modern learner. You were born to learn, and we were born to help you. Move forward with the leaders in online education.
Okay, well, let's get this working and let's think about the design of it here. Oh, Pedro, you're in Brazil. Yeah, you... Nothing... I don't want to get political, but your president might be the only one in more denial than mine. Sorry. Yeah, I in my valley here, it seems like everybody's doing everything normal, and you know, they've got a mask somewhere on them, but everybody treats a mask like it's a magic bullet. And I just, as a numbers guy, like I'm not a medical person at all. I'm a numbers guy. Like this is just a basic math problem. And yeah, drives me crazy, especially as a school teacher. It makes me sad that we couldn't figure out how to keep ourselves safe and get ourselves back to school without it being all kinds of crazy. Age on B, yeah, all titles are coming to PC. That's cool. That's really cool. Examiner, huh? Oh yeah, I'll try to check that out. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to... Oh, this is how we do it. I think I know how to... Okay, so what we need to do is right now... Basically, so the way this navigation works, it's I don't know how you pronounce this. It's this guy. I don't know how you pronounce that. No idea. But it's effectively, this is the basis of fancier A-star pathfinding, which for my needs is perfectly good. What we basically do is we check to see if a sector. So what we do is we start with we start at our end sector, right? And we look to see, have we visited our end sector? And if we haven't, we keep looping through this. And then we start at our current sector and we look at all the connected sectors and we mark them as visited. And then we take one of those and we look at those next ones that are connected to it. And we just keep wandering through this until we get to our end sector. I'm not explaining that super great. Once we get to the end one, we then trace our way back through the pathway. I missed some really important details in that explanation. What's important is that we're marking things as visited. So once we're visited, we don't go back to them. And so what we're saying here is, if we haven't visited it, then we effectively add it to our list, which we don't want to do. Right here, when we're setting this nav connection, we're adding it to our list. And then we also have this cost. And that's how it tries to find the best path. So one way to do this is, if the alignment of the sector doesn't match the player's alignment, you could set the cost to be far higher. Right? If I set this cost to be, instead of +1, if I set it plus 1,000, we're just not going to go there unless that is the only way through. Which I think is one way to do it. So one way we could do this is if we could just do it black and white. If the alignment doesn't match, you don't go through it. But also, it would make more sense, like in the original game, you had these bands of alignment that kept you in good standing. So you could be slightly negative and the Federation wouldn't kick your ass. I kind of like that idea a little bit better, a little bit more nuance in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this number come out of a function. Okay. So we're going to return an integer, get sector travel cost by alignment. And what we're going to do is we're going to take in the sector entity. So we're going to take in our sector, and then we're going to do our individual entity character like so. Okay. And then what this is going to do is that's a really bad, that's kind of a bad that's a pretty badly named function because it's so bloody long. All right. Oh, sector data balls. Oh, that's okay. We don't need the sector entity. We can send in sector data because sector data's got the it's got all the data on it anyways. That's all good. Oh, Tech Dave, you're trying to tell me how to pronounce that. The whole part of my brain that understands what a long and a silent thing, it doesn't work. That part is gone. My wife teaches kindergarten and tells me all the time about pronunciation. Yeah, that part of my brain's broken. I appreciate the effort, but my brain's totally broken. Hey, Pedro, have a good night. Thanks for joining. Okay. So let's do this. If sector line, oh, I thought we had balls. Oh, yeah. Okay. Owner alignments. How do you compare signs? There you go. Can you compare signs? Yes, it returns a float, so that's okay. Okay. Wait, oh, it returns a... How do you do... Let's look it up. How do you do the sign of an integer? Get integer sign. Just math sign. Okay. Okay, but what library is it in? System. Oh, okay. We'll just plug in a... Awesome. Okay. All right. We're gonna do return 1. Okay. So what we're gonna do, basically, if your alignment is the same, if the alignment's the same, we're just gonna return 1 as normal. If okay, so if we get past that, we know that they are okay, else if character alignments. Let's think about this one here. I don't want to make this too complicated because this becomes a pretty big game mechanic in a hurry. What I'm thinking about here is like, okay, so let's say the character alignment's -100. Can it still go through the Federation space, which has got an alignment of 1,000? I probably need to make this a whole lot more complex than this, but let's just do something like, can we do, let's do math f absolute value, I don't know, less than 100, turn 10. So we'll avoid it, but it's still doable. Else see, this is the thing, is like I don't this is a kind of a neat system, right? Because now you kind of maybe I need to think about this mechanic a little bit more. Because right now this will do, you will avoid, the NPCs will avoid sectors that they shouldn't go to, but they will still go to them. So even if I set this at 1,000, it's still going to go there if that's its destination, which is what would happen here. Let's go look at our pirate behavior a little bit more. Let's take a little bit closer look at where are we getting this target sector. So let's look at how we are doing this. We're just getting a random sector. I mean, one way to deal with that is just to, we can override that. Let's see if that is, yeah, that's virtual. So let's grab that. I'm gonna override that. And, oh, but we don't have, so one way to do this is just to make sure we don't pick a target that is we can't go to. I mean, that might be our way to go around this. So what we're going to do is send in our NPC brain here. So we're not actually going to override this. If sector owner, oh, well, that's going to cause an error there. Okay, so does not equal null, and sector owner alignment
Sports are back, and you can find great ways to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. First off, FanDuel is adding,
I guess I'm hesitating here because I don't want to type out the same math and code that I just did.
$10 bonus by August 2nd. And if you're new, download the FanDuel.
Yeah, Tech Dave, that's actually kind of what I'm going for. Someone with a negative 50 and a positive 50 would be treated the same. So I kind of want, when you're near zero, I kind of want you to be treated the same. Now, what I don't want is people with negative 500 and positive 500 to be treated the same. But I want people that are close to zero to be treated the same. Yeah, that I want. And those numbers these numbers that I'm making up, I'm just kind of throwing them out there. I don't know how much this is actually going to matter here. So let's.
Always there for you with savings and 24/7 access to licensed agents.
Okay, this is for my pirate. So let's do if the owner is not null and the owner is greater than 100, then we're going to return get next, and we're going to pass back in the NPC. Why did I spell NPC that way? That's dumb. Okay. So basically, if the owner's not null and the sector's owner's alignment is greater than 100, see, let's leave a note here. Can be this simple because pirate is bad. So this should hopefully prevent target sector from being of the wrong alignment. Again, I think I probably need to rethink this one when it's not the end of the day and I've been streaming for almost 3 hours. To make this a little more generic. I mean, maybe it makes sense to have it in here per behavior, so we can tune it per behavior. That might actually make sense and be simpler than trying to come up with a general way of dealing with this. Okay, so that's gonna work like. So we're feeding in the NPC, which is great. I almost wonder if I want to. See if this is getting referenced at all. No references. Okay, so let's change this one. It's Visual Studio that spelled it that way for me. Because nope, pirate behavior. And then here we are actually going to override this one. That way we can, that gives me a little bit more genericness that everything is going to expect to have the NPC brain put into it. Awesome. If you guys are wondering, the NPC brain, that is the code that actually has all the it's more like the NPC skull, and then this scriptable object is the brain that gets dropped into it. Okay. So hopefully, let's do something like that. That gives us a fallback. I think that gives us a fallback so we don't fully break it. Okay. Let's go and see how we are generating these things. Is my Bolt video still accurate since Unity acquired it? Hey, Jeff Solace. Thanks, guys, for joining. Which Bolt video are you referring to? For the most part, most of them are still accurate. But even my oldest Bolt videos, Bolt evolved, and so some things can be slightly different. Yeah, which video are you are you referring to? The core of Bolt has not changed since I've made a video. There can be details. Even the Bolt 2 videos, the only thing about Bolt 2 that I'm aware of that is different is that you can't get it from the Ludic site anymore. And then I did see something that Bolt 1 is now potentially accessible in the package manager. So how you get Bolt 1 and Bolt 2, that potentially has changed and is changing. But 90, 95, 98% of my videos should still be accurate. So what I'm thinking here is I want this pirate behavior somehow to... So let's look at initialize here. Okay. Because what I haven't done yet is set the alignment for this NPC. We've done all those coding, but the NPC's alignment is still going to be 0. Just can you make a battle royale with Bolt? You can make anything with Bolt you want. One of the amazing pieces about Bolt is that it And one of the reasons I think it's so much better than, say, Playmaker, you'll watch my videos on why I think it's better than Playmaker, is that it uses reflection. So it is, it actually goes through and searches through the C# code base and then self-generates units. So there are some limitations, but a huge portion of what you can do with C#, especially at a kind of a, huge amount of what you can do in C# you can do with Bolt. And with Bolt 2, it will, here, I'll show you. So Bolt 2, this is Bolt 2. You can see the graph down here. It's actually generating C# code here on the right. And I believe this part is broken at the moment. In the future, you'll actually be able to run your game off the C# code, which will bring any sort of performance hit to basically 0. That said, if I was going to make a battle royale, I probably wouldn't do it in Bolt. I'd do it in C#. And actually, I wouldn't make a battle royale. It's too complicated of a game. Yep, Tech Dave's got you right there. God of Newbies. You can use both. It's been kind of on my short list to do a video of how you use both, but yes, it is definitely doable. You can add new types and new variables. Again, because it's all done by reflection, most third-party assets will work with it too. Again, there are some limitations, but it's generally true. Public functions and public variables are very accessible. So if that's how a third-party asset works, then it's great. God of Newbies, is the documentation of Bolt enough for me to start using Bolt? I have no idea what the state of the documentation is. The Bolt community, the Discord, if you're not part of the Discord, I can get you a link here if you want an invite. The Bolt Discord is super active. They've got a handful of moderators over there. There's a ton of help there. And my Discord too, you're always welcome to come to my Discord. There should be a link in the description down there. Always happy to help. I would say watch a couple of videos to get started with Bolt, the basics, how you set up a flow macro, how you attach it to a game object. Yeah, there's a lot of help out there. It's a great tool. I've used it for the last 2 years in my classroom, and I loved it. So, just tell us, what game am I making? Good question. It is a little untitled at the moment. This is, loosely speaking, kind of inspired by a couple of games that I loved. We'll go to play here and see what we can see. It's not a great opening scene there. Anyways, kind of, so we've, that's not what I wanted on the map button. So I kind of got this, right now we're kind of small, procedural universe. You got these stations or solar, I can't speak, I've been talking too long. Star systems connected kind of by portals or however you want to think about it. And then inside those are, like, this is the placeholder for like a port. And if I can warp to the next one. So like, here's another one with a little bit more going on. We've got kind of a planet with a moon going around it. That's my 2. Oh, interesting. Can't type a 23. It's interesting. You can type a 12 though. Must have too much filtering going on that thing. And so the idea here is that it's basically kind of a build a corporation, trade, dominate your little space, and then so it'll break if I do it, but let's see here, or it might make us all nauseous. If I click on the planet here, the moon's gonna go crazy. I got to change the view of this. You can come in here and trade. So you kind of got this inventory system. I've just got some placeholder stuff going on. So your ship, basically, right, you can go and trade, and then you'll be able to start a corporation, and then control different sectors. And like here, you can see you can add a new industry. Yeah, I've got some errors. This has been changing a lot of things. And so this is kind of ripped some core code out. So this is a little broken. The input manager is also broken. So I can't back out of that right now. The other thing here, I can go and add in a, go add an NPC back to our space. It's a little like Stellaris, except hopefully much simpler than that. Hopefully much simpler than that. There's no way I can possibly make a game that complex. We gotta. Interesting. We got a null. Oh, yep. I was just commenting that I was going to throw an error there. Does not equal null. So I was talking earlier, this is like, I played a game as a kid called Trade Wars, which the part that I just showed you is all kind of modeled after that. I just loved the game. The other piece here is that I loved FTL like many of us did. And so I'll show you here, this should still work. The NPC should still warp in here. Yeah, there he is, no name. And there we go. So we got some basic combat, you know, lots of placeholder stuff at the moment. A few things are broken. My input manager's definitely got some broken stuff on it, but so yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. And then I don't think I can, then these ships, the other piece that I like, both those games, FTL and Trade Wars, you couldn't build your own ship. So here, you'll be able to build your own, and that's, I've also managed to break that part. So that's the game. What I've been working on the last couple months is to unbreak things when I did some significant optimization. Jeff, can you get your hands on Bolt now? Bolt 1 is totally free and accessible on the asset store. Bolt 2,
Sports are back.
I can show you guys where that's at, actually. Let's see here. I can drop a link here. I don't know if anybody's seen this. If you guys want to sign up for the alpha for Bolt 2, there's a link in the description. There's a survey that they're getting people to fill out. Somebody dropped a link to one of my videos in there. Rather nice of them. Wasn't me, I swear. Anyways, up here, there's a short survey to fill out. Take you, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to fill it out. And they'll be slowly adding people to the alpha. Okay, last thing we're gonna do, and then I'm gonna go to bed because I'm getting dumb here. Okay, we fixed that. We need to figure out, we need a way for the pirate to have a negative alignment here. And then we'll see if it will avoid coming to that 0 sector. Aquatic, let's see how you're doing. I swapped to Visual Studio instead of Visual Studio Code just for the IntelliSense. Thank you for the advice. Awesome. Hey, I'm glad 2019 is working. What version of Unity are you on? I wonder if that's a piece of it too. I had somebody from Microsoft Visual Studio marketing, I don't know, wasn't very impressed with my interactions with him, reach out to me about Visual Studio and was surprised that I was using 2017. He didn't even know there was a problem with 2019. I don't need a rant about that. That probably doesn't make any sense. Okay. But what I do want to do is maybe set a base alignment for the behavior. So let's do something like public int starting alignment. We'll set it at 0 for there. And the pirates, descriptible object, so we'll do that in the inspector here. And then what I want to do is do my character alignment equals behavior starting alignment, like that. So that'll give us the starting alignment. There's no mechanism right now to change that alignment. That's going to be way down the road. But let's go to our project and set our alignment on our pirate. Pirate behavior, starting alignment. Let's do like, I don't know, -200. Oops. Don't want to go into play mode quite yet. Back out of play mode. I go to our universe creator. And I've been toggling the number of NPCs between 0 and 1 so that I can go to different features. Okay. So with any luck, we should be able to sit here. And so you can see here, zoom in here. So, can't actually zoom aside. Make that big. So I don't know if you guys, oh, he did show up. Damn it. So one of the things I've struggled with, it's once I moved all of these objects from game objects to just entities in a list, it's a little bit harder to check them out. So that's what I've been, building here, displays an NPC. So its alignment is -200. So that did not work. Let's see. Aquatic, you're on 2019.4. Okay, so slightly 0.4. You're a slightly newer version than I am, but basically the same. So it shouldn't be that much. Interesting. I wonder if I just have something set up wrong with my 2019. If you're not using IntelliSense, Aquatic, yeah, definitely. If IntelliSense isn't working, fix it. It is such a time saver, such a huge time saver. Hey, good boy, bad. Have a good night. I'll take the soothing voice as a compliment. Have a good night. Thanks for joining. God of Newbies, you have C# programming knowledge, but I want to try visual scripting. I have zero knowledge about Bolt. I'm a beginner in game development. Will watching your tutorial series help? I mean, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I would start with, if you have C# background, I think you'll pick up Bolt pretty quickly because it really does use the same terminology as C#. When you set up Bolt, I would recommend then using programmer language. Granted, using C# outside of Unity is a little bit different, but just in the Unity C# tends to be kind of a subset of C#, I think. Speaking a little bit out of my butt there, but yeah. I would start with check out the spinning cube tutorial. It's as basic as it gets. It shows you how to set up the basics of a Bolt. Just make sure you get the well, I'll find it for you here. You can probably find it too, but there's a spinning cube for Bolt. There's a link to the spinning cube. There's a spinning cube for Bolt 2, which will be confusing. I've done my best to label videos Bolt 2. Also, if you want this one here, setting up Unity or setting up Bolt, this one might be a tad outdated in terms of the download, but in terms of which windows you need, that second video there in the link or in the chat could be useful as well. The other one, trying to think where they have, Home Mech here, this guy made all the official Bolt videos. He did a really nice video on Bolt for beginners. But when Unity bought it, it changed. Stuff moved around, so I don't know. I don't know if that's still around. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I got a newbies. That version, that series is definitely some of my older stuff. I'd like to think I'm doing a better job of making videos now. But even that collectible stuff, you can do that entire video just with primitives. You know, make a plane, put cubes up. That I can't remember why I did that video with that terrain like that. It's confused a lot of people. It was probably because I was doing something with my class. We just done terrains, but you actually don't need any assets for that. And you can get the standard assets, the character that runs around, you can get it from the asset store. Just fellas, let's see. You suck at coding. Maybe Bolt will help. Yeah, I think a lot of people say they're not so great at coding, but you just got to be patient. Give yourself time. Time. We're so used to being able to, you know, learn something, do something, get good at it. You know, get a book, read a book. Books are way better than videos in terms of learning that stuff because there's more content. It's the same voice throughout the entire book. Or jump on a program like Code Academy or something like that. But actually what's really good too, as a person who's earned his paycheck for the last 15 years teaching real life students, I'm super impressed with some of the stuff on Unity Learn. Their Create with Code class. Let's see. This class, well, let's just go here and start there. This thing is really, I'm really impressed with this Create with Code. God of Newbies too, if you're, again, I don't know how brand new you are to game development. This is a great place to start. My next school year is actually gonna potentially be so crazy and just busy for so many different reasons. I may actually leverage this class a lot. Yeah, Unity's educational materials, when I started teaching my in-person real life game design class, their stuff was garbage. It was absolute garbage. I remember seeing it was like a 30-page PDF and it was just garbage. Yeah. So I may actually use this with my class. I may actually, and because I think it's so good and for lots of reasons that I don't need to go into, I may actually drop Bolt from my class next year and just use C#. I have thought about actually remaking this series in Bolt. Got a newbies. What is different between Bolt 1 and Bolt 2? The core workflow difference is the addition of classes. So this video here on the right is all about classes in terms of Bolt 2, and it kind of fairly long video. It's 12 minutes. It's one of my longer videos. Walks through all the options. That is fundamentally different. However, the way you put together the code in Bolt 2 and Bolt 1 is pretty similar. But again, the classes bring in a different workflow. Things like functions didn't really exist in Bolt 1, especially functions that had return values. I actually made a couple of videos on how to create return values with Bolt. I wanted to do some object pooling, and object pooling was a pain in the ass without return values. So I created return values in Bolt. You can find those videos too. So there is some some difference. I would recommend starting with the Bolt 1 videos. And again, some of the Bolt 1 videos are good, some are not so great, some are, you know, I've learned a lot in the last 2 years of how to make videos. You'd always be welcome to stop by my Discord and ask questions. Happy to help there. And the Bolt Discord too is pretty active. So my recommendation would be to start with the Bolt 1 videos. Okay, let's see if I can figure this out.
Uncharted territory. To support our communities. At Dell Technologies, we're making sure small businesses have the right tech solutions.
Okay, I know why this isn't working.
Advisors are here for you, from helping small businesses stay connected and productive while working remotely with Windows.
Because we weren't targeting the sector 0.
Remote work solutions that
We were just passing through.
With Dell Financial Services, we're standing by you every step of the way.
And what this does is prevent the sector from targeting. This prevents us from targeting the sector of the wrong alignment, but doesn't prevent us from going through it.
Move you forward, help you pivot, rebuild, reskill. Let us help you learn for whatever the future holds. So when the world is ready, you will be too. You were born to learn, and we were born to help you. Move forward with the leaders in online.
Okay, so let's try this. Let's try a bit.
And you can find great ways to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. First off, FanDuel is adding 10
travel in sector. So we'll do it like this.
You already have a FanDuel Sportsbook account. Then you're all set. Just use your $10 bonus by August 2nd. And if you're new, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and use referral code Spotify. 21 plus.
So we're gonna do something just like. We're actually gonna take all that. We're gonna take that same.
Call 1-800-522-4700.
Getting some likes on my Tiny Tacos post. Phone's heating up a bit here. You liked my Tiny Tacos, so they're back for good.
Don't like that I'm basically duplicating this. There's probably a smarter way to do that.
Delivery prices may be higher and subject to fees.
Let me think about that. Because what I could do is actually just call this function here, and then depending on the value I get back, I can return a Boolean. That's it's a little convoluted. Okay. So let's do if can travel in sector Do sector, character. Okay, so if we can't travel in that sector, then what we're going to do is sector is ooh. So what I want to do is effectively set it as is visited. But this takes in a value. Something like that. Well, Tech Dave, this isn't about players, actually. This is just NPCs. And so I'm not super thrilled with how I've implemented that, but I think you were playing Rocket League. I have an overload here for these two paths, and so this the non-overloaded path gets called by the player ship, whereas this find path gets called by the NPC. So let's actually put that into our notes here. Call only be called by player ship. Be called by NPC. And or by player if safe travel desired. So we might be able to actually to have a use those in a way that we can get a safe path. But you might be right that this is too big of a gameplay. I might just need to rethink this, because really what I want it to do I might need to think about the structure more, because using this singular parameter of alignment to make this decision just may not be sufficient, because it's very possible to have two corporations that both have negative alignment, or players that have negative alignment, and we don't want them interacting. So I think you're right. I think you're right to point that out, that it's not a great design. Hey there, thanks for joining. I got no idea how to pronounce your username. Might just because I'm a moron. Definitely a possibility. True story. True story. In middle school, I got called into the principal's office. Was terrified, because I was a rule follower. I did not break rules. Hadn't done anything wrong. I was terrified. Got called in the principal's office. The reason I'd gotten called into the principal's office was because either that day or the previous day we had signed up for student ID cards. and I had misspelled my own middle name. It was the first time I'd ever written my middle name. Oops. So the fact that I can't pronounce somebody's name, I couldn't even spell my own damn name. All right, let's make this thing work. Let's make this work. And then Tech Dave, you're absolutely right that this needs to get revised. So here we go. Can we travel in sector? That's probably the piece that needs to get revised. I'm not really. I kind of maybe think about NPC ships fighting it out, but simulating that is gonna be it's gonna be really hard. I think it's gonna be really hard. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I can use my same code combat. They just shoot at each other. That is a bridge that I have not crossed yet. Okay, let's see if this works. And if it does, I'm gonna go to bed. Okay, so what we should see here, if it's not working, the NPC should show up pretty darn quick. So again, what I'm watching for right there, ships. Oh, we froze. Oh, it's that recursive function. I'm sure it is. Well, I think that is a sign that it is time to go to bed. I'm sure that recursive function, I was just thinking I did something wrong again, and Detective, that's hilarious. That is an important last name to be able to pronounce. I don't know how to spell. As I was saying, oh, it just makes me laugh too. My last name is Wolf. My wife's last name is also Wolf, and my mother's last name was Wolf. It's funny how that works. And both my wife and my mother, when they were teachers, get called Mrs. Fox. Not sure why. They both did. Hilarious. Anyways, enough stories. The freezing up of Unity, I know where I know what is happening. I know the problem, but I'm too tired. And I'm gonna fix it later. So anyways, thanks for joining. Do really appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments, the questions. If you guys are new to Bolt, sounds like a handful of you guys are, check the description below. Jump on my Discord. Happy to answer those questions about Bolt. If you get stuck on my video or somebody else's video, happy to help best I can. And then otherwise, I'll see you guys next Friday. Next Friday. That's how tired I am. I don't even know what day of the week it is. See you guys next Saturday. I'll be streaming again, same time. Have a good night.